Hello and welcome to the Low Code Podcast. I'm Faraz Khan from iTrack, and we are the global specialists in OutSystems recruitment. With this podcast, our aim is to increase awareness and appreciation of OutSystems and its impact and benefits to the market, and our early adoption is giving competitive edge to businesses worldwide. During our podcast, myself and my colleague Sushil Chauhan will be speaking to IT leaders and OutSystems MVPs on how OutSystems has transformed their businesses and careers. We also hope that by speaking to MVPs on their career journeys, we can inspire developers from all over the world to learn from others who have already been on the path. So let's go.
Hello, welcome to the latest episode of the Low Code Podcast. And today I've got with me Mr. Ricardo Ribeiro, who is a Chief Transformation Officer at Montepio Credito. Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming on. So let's just start, Ricardo, with just hearing a little bit about yourself. I know you've been at the organization quite a long time, and Elena, maybe speak a little bit about Montepio Credito, who I know are also a Portugal-based entity.
Yes, indeed. Let me give you my background first. I'm not a person which is coming from a tech background, but I always was keen about technology. I'm a person which is coming from economics and management since a long time, doing a lot of knowledge acquiring on the tech industry, on blockchain and fintech mostly. Okay, let's get to Montepio Credito. Montepio Credito is a financial company here in Portugal, headed here in Portugal, member of a banking group which is Montepio, and we are mostly targeting the credit market, specialized credit market, coming from the needs that consumers have and companies too, when they are thinking on buying a car and thinking on buying an equipment, when they're thinking on buying some consumer electronics. And we are there directly or indirectly through a channel of brokers and companies that we have working with us.
Fantastic. So I understand that you are dealing across a number of kind of different types of credit and working with lots of different business partners as well.
Yes, since the last 25 years, Montpelio Credito is doing this.
Great. And in terms of your sort of the challenges that the business was facing in terms of digital transformation over the last sort of couple of years, how would you summarize the challenges that the business was facing?
Yeah, it has been quite challenging, mostly because we started. I believe that we started in the right moment. We started everything in 2019, meaning 2 years ago, and starting by defining the objectives that we have inside on when you are entering on a digital transformation project. We have a project inside which is called Matrix, and this Matrix project is mostly to how we can expose ourselves and create the means and the channels to interact in a digital way with partners and with customers directly. And it was quite challenging, mostly because we did the things from a point of view in a correct way. So first, starting by the foundations. Foundations is what we are going to do with our legacy. Are we remain with the legacy? Are we changing the legacy or not?
Sure.
The second was to try to understand the customer expectation and also our partners' expectations. And for that, we had to involve a lot of people inside of the company, try to understand and do all the design thinking since the first draft, onboarding people from our partners, onboarding customers to different kind of customers, different profiles, in order to understand their expectation, what they are willing to have from us, what they are expecting to have from Montpelio Credito. And then I believe that we had the first draft, and we were stepping on that draft and developing everything, starting by the platforms, all the foundations which were necessary based on an API ecosystem, which is what we aim to be.
Sure. So really the challenges were twofold. One is, like every organization, you've got the kind of technical challenges of dealing with legacy systems, integration with maybe other systems with partners, like that. So that's a very much kind of hardcore technical.
Integration
but then you've got
was hell.
Integration as hell. Actually, then you've got the business challenge, I think, as well, which is, how do we look at the business and how do we make it friendlier in terms of how it interacts with end customers and the process. I think how do you make the process better and more efficient? So that's probably typical of kind of many organizations. And I think really, it is really in the last few years, I think that there's been a huge change in impetus for many organizations to try to sort of move things forward. Otherwise, they'll be left behind.
Yes, indeed, because each customer and each partner, each business partner we have had their own customer journey, which means that from our side, we have to build our customer journey like Lego,
Sure.
Which means that each component it's an individual one, which we can mix up and change the sequence according to the customer journey that person has in his mind, reducing as much friction as possible in order to guarantee that we have a complete digital process from A to Z, meaning not having moment in the customer journey that is not purely digital. And at the same time to have an omni-channel drive, which means we can answer and we can supply all the service to that customer, to that business partner, which at the same time is providing the service directly to the customer, in order to guarantee that we are omni-channel in all the points of interaction. Sure. It was quite challenging, and more than that, it was also challenging to integrate all the service partners, meaning partners for electronic signature, partners for identification, partners for AML, partners for QIC, partners for archive. It was quite challenging to integrate everything as an API ecosystem in order to guarantee that everything needs to be in place and to be according to the level of service that we agree with them.
Sure. I mean, and it sounds like many companies, when you first look at this, it looks like a kind of huge project, potentially with so many moving parts. And so how did your mind sort of turn to looking at, I mean, there are various solutions that could be looked at for this, and one of which is looking at low code. I mean, many people won't even have considered low code or heard of low code, but you decided to start looking down that route, and in particular OutSystems. But for the benefit of some people who may be considering digital transformation who haven't considered the option of low code, what would you say low code? What is low code, and what would you say? What kind of advantages would low code bring?
Yeah, I have a concept of low code which is mostly my own. If you look to Lego and you want to build a house, each piece of the Lego has a function. I mean, has code embedded, has instructions, has a lot of activities inside, meaning you are constructing and picking each piece of Lego, you are constructing a house or an image or something else, which means that low code is quite that, meaning I don't have to build a piece. I only have to take each one and build what I want to have built in the end of the day. This is like that, which means that you don't need to be quite an expert or really a big expert on the field in order to build something which is related to a platform or something that you want to expose, or the channel that you want to create in order to communicate with your end customer or also with the business partner. And low code was quite important for us because it's fast, it's reliable, and it's flexible.
I suppose as well, something that people may not realize as well is very much a kind of enterprise solution with a number of some of the problems in terms of integration and security and things like that have already been solved. So it's not you're starting from scratch again in terms of how to integrate these pieces into other parts of the organization.
Yes, indeed, and more than that, because you create a way to involve other people in the organization on building that platform, which means that we are not involving only the people from tech or developers of backend and front end developers, but you are building your customer journey or the foundations of your customer journey. You are designing your customer journey, and then you can do this with the people which are in the field, the commercial consultants, the people from operations, people from legal compliance. They all can interact while you are building their platform. And low code is right that mostly we were deciding by OutSystems. And we decided by OutSystems mostly based on two reasons. The first one is because we are giving all the time the privilege to work with Portuguese companies in the tech area, and OutSystems is their foundations is Portugal, or is Portuguese first. Second, because OutSystems was quietly widely available. A lot of people were developing in OutSystems, the stack of OutSystems too, which means it was quite easy for us to create and to find people which were able to develop in OutSystems.
Yeah, actually, that's quite a good point, actually, because I think with low code generally, it's probably a technology and a platform where there's not thousands of people who know it. And
Indeed.
You're right. I mean, obviously Portugal is the home of OutSystems,
Exactly.
and there's more kind of probably more developers for OutSystems in Portugal than anywhere else in the world. So, and partners as well. So that's a good choice. So,
yes, it was mostly one of the reasons that we choose OutSystems.
And I think you chose that decision was made 2 years ago, and I think what we're finding definitely, as a kind of an OutSystems recruiter, is that a lot of companies now are building their teams globally. So they're not saying, oh, we have to be in Portugal now. It seems to be more accepted, since the pandemic and everything else, that they're willing to have projects and major implementations done by people working remotely.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. And more than that, we are doing now, we have another challenge now inside of Montpelio Credit. We started all the activities of the Magic project based on service providers. We are now during 2021 internalizing all the activities based on and using and maximizing the OutSystems stack, which means it will be also an important moment for us to reskill everybody inside, to give them the training which is necessary, to guarantee that knowledge transfer from the service provider to internally, in order to bring a broader use of OutSystems inside of Montpelio Credito, not only for the digital platforms that we are using today.
Sure. And when you started this process, did you have like a specific time frame in mind in terms of the speed at which you wanted to get certainly the kind of initial major parts of the transformation done?
Yeah, indeed. It was slower than we expected, but it was not because of OutSystems. It was mostly because of the integrations and how we are going to use our legacy and what we have to change internally in our legacy. First, second, also it was quite challenging to integrate a new way of do business based on digital way. And to integrate this way of doing business even with the people inside. People were not used to receive a contract signed electronically. People were not not used to guarantee that we have a level of services which will not be 10 minutes, which will be perfectly online, and also during hours that we are not used to guarantee that everything should be in place, which means it was quite challenging on that.
And I think that's right. I mean, especially doing something where you've already got lots of systems kind of entrenched in the organization is clearly a lot more difficult than a greenfield project. And I suppose in terms of your competition, there may be new players coming on the market who don't have anything. They don't have any sort of technical debt. They've got no systems at all. So it's a kind of, in some ways they can move in faster than the people that have already been around for a long time.
Yes, indeed. The main issue here is to have a quite clear view about the architecture that you are going to use. Even I'm not a tech guy, it was quite important to have clear view about the foundation, which is the architecture that we are going to use. Meaning, what are the activities that we are willing to perform on our legacy, on our ERP? What are the activities that we are going to be to have processed on the platforms, on the stack of OutSystems, which are the activities that are going to guarantee that we have the perfect integration. And more than that, those integrations should be plug and play, or meaning plug in, plug out, which means that we have another challenge every time that we are changing as a service provider in the different steps of the customer journey. And we are in the beginning, even so that we have a platform in place, which is My Credit Tech, which is a platform that every consumer can do a simulation, meaning a quotation on credit, and do all the process of onboarding, digital contracting, and also canceling the contract if the case. But nevertheless, this is the beginning of the journey. We have more 3 platforms which are coming soon in a couple of days. And more than that, this is really the beginning, because we want to integrate everything in an omni-channel view, which means that we are going to integrate also with the e-commerce. We are integrating on an offline, online view of the e-commerce platforms, all the retail activities. There's a lot of things to do, and OutSystems is helping us on this.
And I suppose you're using a combination of sort of cloud and on-premise kind of solutions. So
yes, indeed, on OutSystems and also in everything which is related to it, we are using cloud. But our legacy, meaning our ERP, is on-prem, which means we are and all the services or integrations that we have already with other service providers are all of them in cloud. Yeah, this was an important step to us too, because we were not having anything on cloud.
So it's really, I suppose, like you said, it's a key step in bringing the organization forward into the kind of modern tech world. And in terms of the kind of key competitive edge, I suppose, that, what are some of the key things that the company has gained in terms of competitive edge as a result of this transformation?
Yeah, okay. I believe that we reached to some competitive edge keys, if we can say. First of all, now we are prepared to integrate with a lot of platforms in the market, meaning in a concept of embedded finance first. And this was possible only in the moment that we integrate an AP ecosystems and we integrate with OutSystems and the architecture that we have today. The second is that in fact here in Portugal we are one of the few financial companies dedicated to credit or exclusive to credit, which has a complete digital, 100% digital onboarding and contracting scene from A to Z.
Right.
And the third, I believe that we develop all this concept, which could be provided as a white label, which means that imagine that financial company is coming from UK and is coming from Portugal. They are quite good on the customer journey, but they don't want to, or they don't have, or they are not prepared for the legal legacy that Portuguese has, the customization that the legal environment has. We can provide all the service for them, which means we build everything in order to be white label too.
Right. And in terms of the how efficiencies have been brought into the organization, so whether that's internally or with your external partners, and how that landscape looks a bit different to what it was before.
Indeed. In the past, we were receiving the calls from the customers. We were somehow doing the onboarding in our legacy, and then we have all the procedures on related to the decision, sending the contracts by email or by mail. It was quite annoying and quite time consuming, we were sometimes using one day to guarantee that we are performing all these tasks. Now with MicroEditech, we are doing this in less than 30 minutes, which means that we have an advantage, a huge advantage, because people are not anymore focused on the administrative tasks. They are mostly focused on try to help the consumer, try to help the customer on the activities that he has performed on the platform, and also try to understand their projects, their needs, and try to fulfill their needs with our product.
And in terms of the sort of human factor of, I mean, in any transformation, and I've experienced this myself when I've been working in the past, but there's always some kind of resistance to change, or resistance,
yes, indeed,
or suspicion even, and that's, I suppose, it's twofold. One is the internal organization, so the staff, and then trying to get key people on board and convince them that this is the right way to go. And then the second thing is the people you're working with in terms of business partners, getting them on board as well. So what would be your advice in terms of how to overcome that challenge?
Yes, it's quite challenging, I can tell you. That the first thing of everything, you have to be well sponsored, which means that you have to have the board of directors with you. Otherwise, you cannot implement anything in a company on anything, and mostly on a digital transformation project. The second one, and when you go to the people, to the staff, which were somehow hide it from the customer. They were talking with the customer on the phone. They were not seeing the customer. They were not interacting so much with the customer. They were more administrative focus or operational focus, and not product driven or interactive driven activities, which means that the best way was to do with them. I'm doing a lot of things with them. I'm standing by them. I'm sitting with them, and I'm explaining how the things could be done, trying to minimize the fears and to let them try. And when we do this, the things go well. And based on the business partners, this is a challenging too. Because in fact, they want to have the highest technology, but they don't know how to use the technology. And the technology today is not so seamless as we want it to be. And what we did was not to give them only one alternative, give them several alternatives. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
On the partner's ID identification, we could find only one way to collect the ID or identification of a customer. When imagine that I'm in a grocery shop or in a retail shop, and I'm a customer. I'm going to the vendor, the person which is there, and I will need to buy a phone, and I want a credit for that phone. Yep. If I was giving them only a way to capture the ID based on a photograph or a photo of the document, if something happens, if he doesn't have the conditions, or he's not able to capture, or something happened, it was quite a problem. What we did, we give them several alternatives. We can use the electronic ID. He can take a scan. He can do a photo using the streamline. He can do other ways. He can read the document of ID based on an equipment to read the document, meaning we were doing all the time several alternatives in order to mitigate and in order at the same time to fit their needs. And this is mostly the way to this, try to minimize the friction or the adoption of a high technology, or application of a high technology in the customer journey, which they are not used to. At the end of the day, you need to provide all the time a way that he's not using the platform, he's using the people that we have inside in Montpelio Credito to fulfill his needs all the time, and not having any blame, and even not giving any rewards to the ones which are using digital, meaning the rewards of using digital is because from the business partner, he's really doing a good job. He's minimizing the friction with the customer, and he's seeing real value on the platform that he's using based on digital transformation.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I think
the way.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that aspect of things is actually more difficult than the technology part, isn't it? So
Yeah, indeed.
in my experience,
it's quite challenging because you have to develop the technology and the platforms, considering all these alternatives, considering all the different customer journeys, and not put him in a position that he has to choose on one customer journey.
Yeah, and I suppose that's one of the advantages as well of the low code and OutSystems of the omni-channel kind of experience, the multi experience, which nowadays I would say for any business, if they don't have that, they're really falling behind, I think.
And more than that, because if you are doing in a traditional way, indeed, with a business partner, even with a consumer, there are things which are not monitored. After the moment that you are putting in place a digital platform or a digital way of doing business, you have more monitoring on the activities. If you have more monitoring activity, you have also quite huge challenge on compliance, which mostly the business partners are not understanding.
Right.
Which means that in the end of the day, it's quite challenging because we need to create a balance between technology and low friction, low code on developing that platform, but at the same time being all the time in compliance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, and then sort of looking forward, I suppose I want to ask you about two things looking forward. One is, in terms of your organization in particular, but also I think what's of interest is what your views are on low code generally and where it's going. Because I think it's still sort of fairly early days, although we've come a long way in the last 4 years, I would say, in terms of technology. Although OutSystems itself has been around for almost 2 decades now. I think it's only recently in the last 5 or 6 years that things have really changed, and there's a lot of talk about, if you read, what is the forecast for technology in the future, and where does low code fit into that? There's lots of different opinions and things, and so what do you think, and what do you think, maybe there's some particular things as well that your organization is trying to do and wants to do, and looking forward to some technology that maybe enable you to do those things?
Yeah, indeed. Based on Montpelio Credito, our pipeline of at least our roadmap activities for the next 2 years are mostly focused inside. Why inside? Because in fact we did a lot of we execute a lot of activities in order to transform Montpelio Credito digitally for customers and business partners. But inside we were not transforming the way people were working in a seamless and frictionless way that we are doing outside, which means 21 and 22 to be the moment of gain efficient inside, somehow create an environment which will be better for the people to work, better for the people to do the work, and mostly to enhance their capacity and their skills on create value with technology and interact as best as possible with the consumer and with the business partner. This is what we are doing in the next 2 years, and we are doing this with OutSystems too.
Yeah.
And okay, about low code. I'm very keen about low code, mostly because I'm not a developer, but I want to develop first.
Right.
Which means that, and I believe that inside of the company we have a lot of people which have this view. Which means that if you evolve a lot of people inside of your company with different skills, people which are coming from compliance, people which are coming with and have the knowledge which for what is to interact with the customer and with the business partner. People which are coming from marketing, people which are coming from finance and other areas. If you bring these people on developing in the stack of OutSystems, trying to build moment by moment the interface, the needs. If you do this, meaning you can reach to the end with a complete map of the customer journey or the activity journey inside, which fits and involves all the people of the company. And this, for me, is one of the best features. OutSystems launch, I believe, this in this latest next step, the Experience Builder.
Yeah, they've announced a few.
Yes, we will start using Experience Builder in the next couple of months, and we will start doing this with the people inside, not only the people from the IT department or the technology department, mostly of the people which are in the field, which they can create and experience and look for something which could be deployed in a faster way, but mostly in a way that I'm expecting to be.
Yeah, that's an important point, actually. So bringing the non-technical stakeholders in the business, but the people who are nevertheless critical in terms of how the business works and how the processes work and what they really want from bringing those two things together, I think. And I think like low code, you're right, actually, low code is a very good way to sort of bridge that gap, I suppose.
They are trading off in that moment. It's completely different when you do the customer journey, you design the customer journey, then you go to the front end guy to translate that customer journey, and this translation normally has a lot of issues. When you are doing this with the people which are designing the customer journey, they know what is the customer journey, and they are doing the trade-offs with the compliance at the same time, with the guys from finance, with the guys from other activities, from other areas. In the end of the day, you have a better concluded job while you are doing in a how traditional way. And more than that, there are a lot of other functionalities, we can say, which OutSystems were presenting this year. I'm quite keen about RPA. I'm quite keen about everything which is related to OCR, for example. We are doing a lot of OCR. We are doing OCR from using external entities too. There's a lot of potential activities that we can perform on OutSystems based on their development this year.
Well, it's really interesting to see, how that pans out actually in the next 12 months, I suppose, is maybe a good timeline to look at and to maybe revisit and see how things are going again in 12 months if you're willing to come back. So thanks, Ricardo. It's been really interesting talking to you, and we will meet up again, I think, in 6 to 12 months and see how that journey's gone.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Low Code Podcast, hosted by iTrack, Global OutSystems Recruitment Specialist. Be sure to subscribe, and see you next time.